If you own SCHD, your dividend has just arrived. Today, June 29th, SCHD distributes its quarterly dividend. That means there's cash sitting in your brokerage account right now, and the choice you make with it could be worth tens of thousands of dollars over the years. Here's what most people never hear. They make this decision without thinking, and the wrong choice quietly costs them a fortune. Over the next few minutes, I'll walk you through the 3 options you have for your SCHD dividend, the actual math behind which one performs best, and the one case where the obvious decision is actually the wrong one. No matter how many shares you own, stay with me, because you'll face this same decision every single quarter for the rest of your life. Here's what we'll cover. First, the 3 choices you have for this dividend payout, explained in simple terms. Then, the real numbers. What reinvesting compared to taking the cash actually means for your wealth over time. After that, the tax mistake that catches investors holding SCHD in the wrong account. And finally, the one scenario where skipping reinvestment is actually the better decision. Let's dive in. A quick disclaimer: this content is for educational purposes using current data, not financial or tax advice. I'm not a licensed financial advisor or tax expert. Every person's situation is different. Always confirm the latest information and speak with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. So the dividend just arrived. What can you actually do with it? You have 3 options, and that's all. Option 1. Reinvest it back into SCHD. This is known as a DRIP, or Dividend Reinvestment Plan. Your broker automatically uses the cash to purchase more SCHD shares, including fractional shares, with no commission. You don't have to do anything. More shares mean a larger dividend next quarter, which buys even more shares. That's how the snowball grows. Option 2. Take the cash and spend it. The money stays in your account, and you use it for bills, daily expenses, or anything else you need. This is what many retirees do when living off their investment income. The dividend is doing exactly what it was designed to do, paying you. Option 3. Take the cash but invest it somewhere else. Instead of automatically buying more SCHD, you collect the cash and choose where it goes. Maybe into another fund. Maybe you wait for a market pullback. Maybe you rebalance into something you're underweight in. More flexibility, but it requires you to actually make a decision. So those are your 3 options. Reinvest automatically, spend the cash, or invest it manually somewhere else. Now let me show you the math behind which one usually comes out ahead, because the difference is bigger than most people realize. Now let's look at what reinvesting really does. I'll keep this straightforward because the exact numbers change depending on the time period you're measuring. One fact never changes. Over long periods, SCHD investors who reinvested their dividends finished with considerably more money than those who took the cash and left it sitting. Across many 10-year periods, total returns were about 25 to 30% higher, simply because of compounding. Not by choosing better stocks or timing the market, just by allowing every dividend to purchase more shares that produce their own dividends. The exact percentage changes, but the result doesn't. For long-term investors, reinvesting comes out ahead. Here's why it matters for income. When you reinvest, 2 things increase at the same time. First, SCHD's dividend per share grows over time. Second, your share count increases every quarter as dividends purchase additional shares. Rising dividends multiplied by a rising share count create an incredibly powerful snowball effect. If you take the cash instead, your dividend per share can still increase, but your share count remains unchanged. Your income still grows, just at a much slower pace. Over 10 years, reinvesting can generate significantly higher annual income, sometimes 40 to 50% more, depending on the assumptions. The exact percentage isn't what matters. The difference is real. One last point. SCHD's dividend growth has moderated. During its early years, dividend growth averaged roughly 10 to 13% per year. More recently, it's been closer to 7% as the fund has become much larger. That's still solid growth and ahead of inflation, but it's more conservative. When making future projections, it's better to use reasonable assumptions like 7% instead of the older double-digit growth rates. Now here's a trap that catches many investors, and it has nothing to do with how good SCHD is. It all comes down to where you own it. Many investors don't realize that even if you automatically reinvest your dividends, they're still taxable. In a standard brokerage account, the IRS treats dividends as taxable income the moment they're paid, whether you spend the money or reinvest it. You never actually touched the cash, but you still owe taxes on it. That catches a lot of people by surprise. The good news is that SCHD mainly pays qualified dividends, which are taxed at the lower long-term capital gains rates, usually 0%, 15%, or 20%, depending on your taxable income. That's much better than paying ordinary income tax rates. Even so, taxes still reduce your returns, historically by around 1% each year in a taxable account. That's why choosing the right account matters. If you can, hold SCHD inside a Roth IRA or traditional IRA. In a Roth IRA, dividends and all future growth may be completely tax-free. In a traditional IRA, taxes are delayed until you begin taking withdrawals. Either way, you eliminate the yearly tax drag and allow more of your dividends to continue compounding. The fund stays the same, and the dividend stays the same. But the account you use can make a significant difference in how much wealth you eventually keep. I've been explaining why reinvesting makes sense, because for most investors growing their wealth, it's the better choice. But there are situations where reinvesting isn't the smartest option. If you're retired or financially independent and depend on dividend income to pay your expenses, take the cash. That's the whole reason for building a dividend portfolio. You spent years growing your investments, so one day you could live off the income without selling your shares. At that point, taking the dividend isn't a mistake. It's the payoff for your patience and discipline. Reinvesting can also be the wrong choice if SCHD has grown into too much of your portfolio. Automatically purchasing more shares may increase your concentration risk. In that situation, taking the dividend and investing it into other assets can improve diversification and keep your portfolio balanced. So the rule is straightforward. If you're still building wealth and don't need the income, reinvest and let compounding do the hard work. If you're retired or already overweight in SCHD, take the cash and use it where it's needed most. The dividend is simply a tool. Use it in the way that best fits your financial goals. Here's the real takeaway. Wealth is usually built through small, repeated decisions that don't seem important in the moment. A single SCHD dividend payment might not appear to be much, but the choice to reinvest or take the cash comes back every quarter, year after year. Over time, those decisions compound. Reinvesting can meaningfully increase both your total returns and future income because compounding becomes stronger the longer it's allowed to work. The investors who create lasting wealth usually aren't the ones chasing the latest hot stock or attempting to time the market. They're the ones who build simple systems, reinvest consistently, use the right accounts, and allow time to do the heavy lifting. The real advantage isn't excitement, it's consistency. So when your next SCHD dividend arrives, don't overlook it. Make a conscious decision. If you're still focused on building wealth, reinvest it and keep the snowball rolling. If you're living from your portfolio, take the cash and use it the way it was intended. Either option can be the right one. What matters most is making the decision on purpose, because this same opportunity will come back every quarter throughout your investing journey. To wrap things up, SCHD has just paid your dividend, and you have 3 choices: reinvest it, spend it, or invest it elsewhere. For most investors still building wealth, reinvesting is generally the better option because compounding can meaningfully increase both total returns and future income. Pay attention to taxes. Reinvested dividends are still taxable in regular brokerage accounts, which is why tax-advantaged accounts like Roth or traditional IRAs can make a big difference. Also, keep your expectations realistic. with dividend growth closer to 7% rather than the higher double-digit rates from the past. If you're retired, relying on dividend income, or already heavily invested in SCHD, taking the cash could be the better choice. So, what are you planning to do with your SCHD dividend? Reinvest it or take the cash? Share your answer in the comments. Subscribe so you don't miss the next SCHD dividend update and the Q3 payment breakdown coming in September. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.